Right, well, this is the less listened, but I think the most genius of our albums. This is not a test exclamation mark, but we're gonna really see how medieval studies, education, and material science, you know, House 3, House 2, etc., like engage with it in an interdisciplinary, duke it out to the death for no house points. No house points, sorry, my bad. And yeah, let's get started. So in this order, we'll have Ariana, we'll have, who will start in the medieval period, and then we'll go very soon right after the medieval period to 2010 with Michael, and then we'll go to the timeless topic, which is science with Charlie. So see, I'm a historian. We like to work with temporality. So first, yeah, let's just jump right into it. Let's get Ariana Ellis. Round of applause.
I'm gonna go a little bit different with this. I like to walk. So, good evening, everybody, and thanks for sticking around after dinner. Troilus and Crusade is a medieval romance set in Troy during the Trojan War. Troilus, the Trojan prince and warrior, is riding triumphantly down the streets when he sees Crusade, a widow of great beauty whose father betrayed the Trojans and joined their enemies. Troilus falls in love with her instantly. Pandarus, one of Troilus's close friends and a relative of Crusade, offers to help him and facilitates a love affair between the two. However, their bliss is marred when Crusade is traded to the Greeks in exchange for a prisoner of war. Crusade plans to flee the Greek camp and rejoin Troilus, but her plan fails. She enters a relationship with Diomed, a Greek warrior, and gives him her brooch, originally a gift from Troilus, as a token of her affection. On the battlefield, Troilus sees Diomed wearing the brooch and realizes Crusade has betrayed him. Troilus dies in battle and ascends into heaven. Crusade laments that concerning her no good word will be written or sung, for these books will ruin me. It appears that modern interpretations have realized Crusade's fear, particularly with regard to her personal agency. Crusade is often portrayed as a woman who is passive, anxious, indecisive, playing the victim and controlled by her situation. These perceptions limit or remove Crusade's range of expression. My analysis introduces another dimension into current scholarship, exploring how Crusade plays a social game in speech, behavior, and thought, highlighting Crusade's tug-of-war for control across all 5 books. Neither passive nor completely in command, Crusade manipulates systems of social convention and patterns of behavior to garner and maintain control over her life and surroundings, as well as her independence. Through this approach, Crusade's behavior in Book 5, the last part of the book where she betrays Troilus, becomes understandable. The number of contrasting interpretations regarding Crusade's motivations and actions is a testament to the character's abstruse nature. An analysis of her agency and choices requires an understanding of Crusade's character, which is formed through her descriptions, actions, and internal monologues. I'm just going to make this a little bit clearer if I can. Well, there we go. All right. Tech skills. All right. First, it is necessary to define the system of social convention Crusade works within. Although the story is set during the Trojan War, I suggest that Crusade actually operates within the social parameters of 14th century England. Crusade appears to subscribe to the late medieval notion that maintaining a retinue will remove the possibility of slanderous accusations. This is essential for Crusade, since her status as the daughter of a traitor and a wealthy widow places her between defined social roles. In this context, specific elements of Crusade's situation and character can be established. She is a wealthy widow. Her home is described as a palace, and she wears a black widow's habit. Crusade is exceptionally beautiful. She attracts significant attention, and is described by Chaucer's narrator as a star, implying both, brilliancy that attracts the eye and a vibrant natural phenomenon, which is simultaneously powerful and untouchable. The descriptions used by Chaucer's narrator reveal that Crusade is self-possessed and aware of her social situation. Crusade's conversations with Pandarus, a figure who is in a position of influence through his status as uncle, are generally familiar, playful, and comfortable. Their interactions reveal that although Pandarus is cast as her guardian figure, she approaches him with issues regarding her estate, which asserts her primary control over the property. However, it is Crusade's behavior in regards to social convention that truly indicates her depth of understanding. Throughout the text, Crusade demonstrates her deft ability to socially adapt to her situation in order to protect herself and her honor. This skill is illustrated following her first interaction with Pandarus. Once Troilus' suit is known, Crusade alternates internally between various elements of social convention as she frames a pseudo-court case for and against accepting Troilus as her lover. Crusade shifts from asserting her youth and freedom, which would allow her to enjoy Troilus' proffered love, to self-recrimination for considering a course of action which would place a man in a position of power over her. This highlights the degree to which Crusade follows patterns of prescribed behavior and attempts to locate herself within two social norms: the wealthy independent widow and the desirable woman. Just do this one more time. There we go. The concept of the widow's latent sexuality was often used to remove personal choice, presenting her desires as sovereign to her constancy. By never explicitly declaring Crusade's consent, Chaucer circumvents this trope, highlighting the ongoing contest between Crusade and those who work to influence her decisions, most often Pandarus. Jill Mann has proposed that Crusade often lets life happen to her. Expanding on this, I propose that Crusade, perceiving relationships as a human chess match, responds by using social convention to attempt to manipulate her surroundings for her own benefit, and that she lets life happen to her only when she has no other recourse, subsequently adapting to her new situation. We can see this in her subtle manipulations of rhetoric and behavior, which I will be discussing today through one scene, particularly, which proves crucial to Crusade's development: the scene in which Pandarus persuades her to accept, or consider at least, Troilus' affections. So just for quick clarity, there's really no scale that works to illustrate this best, so when the power in one of them goes up, they're going to go up as opposed to down. In Book 2, once Pandarus enters and meets Crusade, the dynamics of the relationship are quickly established. Flanked by her retinue, Crusade jests with her uncle at his expense, and both laugh, creating an easy dynamic where the power flows in both directions. Then, in a move that begins their manipulative game, Pandarus asks Crusade to throw away her widow's clothing, and she is taken aback, expressing a desire to maintain her current social situation. Her protestations are marred by the fact that she's reading the story of thieves, and not religious literature, as she claims she should, possibly indicating an unwillingness to fully commit to one social role. During the conversation, Pandarus continues his tactics of manipulation and persuasion by hinting that he holds a piece of interesting information, and then refusing to divulge it to her. This places Pandarus in a position of power. Though she is exceptionally curious, Crusade casts her eyes down, and with a sigh she said to him, "Now, my uncle, I will not displease you or ask anything that may distress you." In casting her eyes downward, Crusade isolates herself from Pandarus' gaze, establishing an equality of power through her decision not to engage any further. Later in the scene, we see Pandarus recommence the sequence of manipulation when he exhorts her to dance, causing Crusade to inquire as to his behavior. This time, Pandarus indicates that he would explain, but he's concerned that she'll be angry with him. In response, Crusade assures Pandarus that she won't be angry and she trusts him. Once he begins his story, Pandarus pauses, staring fixedly at Crusade until she looks back up at him and asks why he's doing this. Pandarus has managed to place Crusade in a compromised situation. His worry appoints him as the party in need of comfort, a vulnerable position of lower power, quote unquote. Crusade's reassurance eliminates one possible reaction to his behavior. If she responds in anger, Pandarus can claim the role of victim, undermining the agency of her words. Once he begins to speak, Crusade again lowers her eyes, but due to the intensity of his gaze, Pandarus draws her eyes back to him, casting her as the viewed and not the viewer, placing her in a passive, prey-like position. Pandarus tells his tale, employing various techniques to control the situation, one of which is to make Crusade believe that she has the power. There we go. In the lead up to his news about Troilus, there really isn't any other illustration to show that a bit better. In the lead up to his news about Troilus' love, Pandarus says that Crusade has been offered an adventure, a concept previously personified by Chaucer as female, tempting the male lead away from his established life. This implies that Crusade is the male protagonist called off to explore, able to choose her own path. A connection supported by the writing of Angela Wiesel in her discussion of Crusade's female masculinity. Pandarus follows this declaration by repeating his fear that Crusade will be angry with him and threatening to never see her again. Crusade does not respond with enthusiasm, but with apparent fear. It is impossible to tell whether Crusade is truly afraid, but it can be said that by responding in this way, Crusade is reacting as society expects. It has been suggested that her life and situation will change, and outwardly she appears to desire the maintenance of the status quo. Also, Pandarus, someone who she has described as a friend, and with whom she discusses her finances and estate, has threatened to abandon her, placing her social position in jeopardy, regardless of his intimations of venture and independence. Pandarus' exploration continues until he arrives at the climax of his argument in favor of Troilus. He threatens to commit suicide should Cresside refuse, which would place the blame for both deaths, Pandarus and also Troilus, who is apparently wasting away for love of her, entirely with Cresside. Cresside's reaction is calculated. If she responds dramatically to any of this, it would likely attract the attention of her nearby retinue, creating the possibility of dishonor or rumor. Rather than behaving fearfully as she did before, Cresside acts with pragmatism, thinking, I will certainly discover what he means. This demonstrates a keen understanding of Pandarus. Cresside uses his emotional outburst to play on his vanity and find out more, asking her uncle how he thinks she should handle the situation. Once Pandarus has provided more information, Cresside bursts into tears. It is likely that Cresside's tears in the scene are an attempt to manipulate the power dynamics and regain control. When Pandarus repeats his threat of suicide in lines 429 to 448, Cresside, while crying, thinks to herself, oh, that's a little bit off, sorry. So much unhappiness has come continually for love, and in this case, as men are cruel and wicked, if this man here kills himself, alas, in my presence, it won't be a comfort. But people will think of this, I don't know, I need to play this carefully. Yeah, if the last line's in Middle English, the no is the modern English. This is a purely pragmatic response to her situation, thought while outwardly expressing extreme emotion, revealing a duality of behavior. Cresside's response demonstrates the importance she places on honor and social standing, and that she knows how to play the indirect game that maintains them. In fact, Cresside's use of the word play to describe the situation indicates that she views the discussion as a game, implying an underlying fight for dominance. Cresside's tearful reaction is a strong power play on her part. She's already waived her right to anger, and should she quickly acquiesce, she would fall into the stereotype of the lustful widow, or at the very least appear eager to act outside of social norms, which is contrary to her established character. The most logical and useful reaction is tears, which would outwardly reposition Cresside as the vulnerable party, possibly attract the attention of her retinue for her benefit, and imply that Pandarus was able to injure her, which appears to assign him more power. This impression comes to the fore when she reproaches Pandarus and mirrors his verbal anaphora. What, is this all the joy and all the feast? Is this your advice? Is this my blissful situation? Is this the very fulfillment of your promise? Is all his ornate discourse said, alas? Mimicking Pandarus' word patterns links the pair, suggesting that in difficult situations of play, Cresside understands how to match her partner's strategy, choosing to outmaneuver him at his own game. Pandarus rises to leave, but not before launching another diatribe of blame at Cresside, ending with the reassertion of his suicidal intent. Cresside, now with no means of regaining total control, decides, I'll choose the lesser of two harms. As Mann suggests, here life has acted on Cresside. However, Cresside appears aware of what has occurred, and immediately following her acquiescence to Pandarus, she asserts herself. She states that regardless of the outcomes to anyone else, she will grant Troilus only friendly behavior to protect her honor, but also because no one can force her to, quote, love a man against her will. Pandarus appears to allow her this small victory, but undermines her power once again through his choice of imagery. At the end of the scene, Pandarus says to her, and I pray to God you'll have good success, such a one you've caught without a net. And if you are as wise as you are beautiful, well in the ring then is the ruby set. In these 4 lines, Pandarus employs 2 phrases that strip Cresside of her power, leaving her with the hollow appearance of control. First, Cresside has caught Troilus without a net. She's a hunter bereft of a weapon, the reassertion of a passive position. Secondly, based on her beauty, it can be assumed that Cresside is the ruby. A jewel with value, believed to contain healing properties, the ruby was reported to be a powerful item. However, once set, the stone is locked in place, stymied in movement by the setting's claws. The last image equates Cresside to a non-human item, a piece of jewelry bought and sold, meant purely for adornment, or to act as a cure for a suffering person. This is in fact the only reason Cresside has agreed to any of this, to prevent death. Although Cresside reprimands him for his words, Pandarus' belief in his newfound power is clear. There we go. After her actions in books 1 to 4, Cresside's apparent change of heart in book 5 has been characterized by scholars as unforgivable and dishonorable, reflecting a significant change from her established character and, quote, Cresside's is a smaller soul than Troilus's. He can bear pressures which she cannot. He thinks more important thoughts than she does, unquote. I suggest that Crusade's behavior in Book 5, falling for a Greek warrior and deciding against escaping to return to Troilus, is consistent with her character as I have previously described. Whether or not Crusade truly loves Diomed is a matter of contention that can never be fully resolved. Mary Behrman suggests that Troilus does not really expect Crusade to return to him, rather he expects her to behave like a proper lady and die for her love. As Crusade has shown repeatedly, she values her survival more than the tropes of idealized romance. Noted by Ayres, to survive, the isolated medieval woman must utilize all means at her disposal. And as Crusade continues to adapt to her new situation, she appears to be more inclined that Troy might fall, and she may lose everything she once possessed. Crusade considers the connection she has forged with Diomed, a man of status in his community, which, in her usual pragmatic manner, she realizes could be of great assistance to her. However, she delays accepting or refusing Diomed as her lover, allowing her to play both sides, weighing the potential of returning to Troy and Troilus should the Greeks fail, suggesting that she still exists in limbo between the Trojan social world and that of the Greeks. Chaucer's narrator continues to say, "Men say, not I, that she gave him her heart," says Diomed, the Greek soldier, revealing that Crusade's initial decision to ally romantically with Diomed is likely highly pragmatic, and any love given on her part is entirely circumspect. This behavior could be expected from the socially savvy Crusade, who has described her relationship with Troilus as a game. The two situations in Book 5 that I believe showcase choices made solely by Crusade are the letters she writes to Troilus and her gift of Troilus' brooch to Diomed, only the latter of which I'll discuss because time is running out. I believe that this gift acts as a potential repudiation. Crusade creates the possibility for Troilus to see the brooch in battle and know of her unfaithfulness. Until he meets Diomed on the field, Crusade is both Trojan and Greek. If Troilus sees the brooch, instead of simply fighting a Greek warrior, he also faces a direct, crushing message from Crusade, shining out from her new lover's chest like the star that Troilus first saw, in the form of jewelry, as Pandarus once purported her to be. Crusade has the last word on the battlefield, manipulating the same male gaze that initiated the entire process. Using the trappings of social convention, Crusade the chess master has checkmated her opponents. Rather than the wavering, fear-driven Crusade traditionally portrayed, I believe that Chaucer has provided the Middle English canon with a strong, dynamic, and pragmatic female presence. Through her rhetorical choices and patterns of behavior, it becomes evident that Crusade views social situations as a game and fights with all means available to win and maintain whatever dominion she can over her life and her future. For medieval women, as for modern women, power is a fluctuating quality and often beyond one's ability to control. As we well know, this is real life. This is not a test. Thanks very much.